All right, we've all had this happen. You're in the blind, getting ready to take down a whole pack of wild hogs. You go to pull the trigger, and the gun just clicks at you. Guys, you've had a malfunction, and we both know this isn't the first time this specific rifle has done it to you. If you know the cycle of operations, though, you can figure out where to start the troubleshooting process of your build. Today, guys, we're gonna cover down on the mechanics and the engineering of your rifle and teach you how this bang stick actually works. Understanding this is going to help you become more intimately familiar with your rifle, which in turn is going to help you figure out how to troubleshoot your problems in the field a whole lot easier. It's also going to help you become a better shooter in the long run. Now, for the purpose of instruction today, we're going to be using a video on this screen from Revel Motion Design, and it's going to have a 3D animation. We're going to drop a card to his video right here. Stoppages, malfunctions, and misfires are all something that occurs when something is disrupting the cycle of operations on your rifle. To diagnose them quickly, you need to understand how that cycle of operations actually occurs in the first place. To understand this concept easily, we're going to start with the moment you insert a magazine into the rifle and go through the entire life cycle of a round of ammunition as it's being fired. Now, if you're looking this up in a military manual, you're usually going to see them start with the firing phase of the cycle of operations. This is because the military is specifically teaching troops to cover down on the immediate and remedial action drills for their firearm, which enables them to get their firearm back into the fight quickly. This is important to know too, and we're going to go ahead and cover that in a separate video that you can check out in this card. But here today, we're going to start with feeding, because I want you to be a holistic shooter that's capable of diagnosing and fixing problems at the source, even if that means you need to get your firearm on a workbench and tear it all the way apart, which isn't something our troops are routinely doing. The cycle of operations is a sequence of steps that your firearm goes through to fire a round and prepare for the next one. Now, this can change if you're running a non-closed bolt firearm, but YouTube doesn't like scary words like machine being used in conjunction with the word gun. And current laws also make it so most of us can't even own an open bolt weapon. So we're not going to get into that today. Today, we're specifically talking about the cycle of operations for the AR-15. I'm also going to let you know about the most common issues that could impact each portion of the cycle as well, in the event that you found this video while you're troubleshooting a rifle. Hopefully I can help you a little bit. Now, here's how it works step by step. First, the round enters what's called the feeding stage of the cycle. This is where everything begins. Once rearward motion causes the bolt carrier group to clear the top of the magazine, the expansion of the magazine spring forces a round into the path of the bolt. After the buffer spring overcomes and absorbs the rearward motion of the bolt carrier group, it expands, and this sends the buffer assembly and bolt carrier group forward with enough force to strip a round from the magazine. This can occur manually when you pull the charging handle to the rear, or it can be caused by the semi-automatic nature of the firearm's gas system. In this phase, you could have issues caused by a weak or a damaged magazine spring or bent feed lips. The troubleshoot here is simple. Just try a different magazine, guys. That said, you might also have deformed ammunition that prevents the rifle from moving past this portion of the cycle. And if your weapon is undergassed or dirty in general, you could be losing too much momentum and ending up with a rifle that's not functioning properly. The forward assist is sometimes going to be able to help you here, but ultimately, you just need to clean your gun, Greg. Next, the round enters the chambering phase of the cycle. As the bolt carrier group continues to move forward, pushing a fresh round in front, the face of the bolt thrusts the new round into the chamber. The extractor claw grips onto the rim of the cartridge case, and the ejector is forced into the hole, compressing the ejector spring. And this is when the firearm enters into the locking phase of the cycle. If you're having issues here, it's likely a dirty chamber that's gunked up and causing the round to not chamber properly. You could also be having bolt issues though, so make sure you're checking out your bolt face when you're doing weapons maintenance. If you're not seeing anything weird there, move back to the buffer spring and ensure that's not stressed out and weak from too much use over the years. If you check these problems, you shouldn't have any issues with this phase. With the locking phase, the bolt carrier group continues to move forward, putting the bolt locking lugs against the barrel extension and the bolt cam pin into the cam track. The bolt then rotates and aligns the bolt locking lug behind the barrel extension lugs, making the firearm ready to enter the firing phase. Locking phase issues are usually caused by one of two things. Your locking lug or your barrel extension is busted and needs to be replaced, or your gas system isn't properly aligned, which is preventing your bolt from cycling all the way forward. If you're out in the range, the quick fix is to check your locking lug and your barrel for damage and pull the rifle off of the line for the day. And once you're out on the workbench, double check your gas blocks alignment as your first step. During the firing phase of the cycle, multiple things occur simultaneously. The hammer of the trigger releases and strikes the head of the firing pin into the round's primer. The primer then ignites gunpowder inside of the bullet, which generates gas from the rapid burning of the powder and propels the projectile through the barrel of the weapon. This is when you can have what's known as an audible pop, which can indicate either a squib load or something wrong with the ammunition that you're shooting. We'll cover more on this in our video about malfunctions and stoppages, which you can check out by clicking on this card right here. After the projectile passes the gas port, some portion of the expanding gas will enter the gas port and the gas tube. The gas tube then directs the gas to the rear into the bolt carrier key, and that will cause the bolt carrier to begin moving back to the rear. This is when we hit the unlocking phase, where the bolt cam pin follows the path of the cam track located in the bolt carrier. This causes the bolt assembly to rotate until the bolt locking lugs are no longer aligned behind the barrel extension locking lugs, which fully releases the bolt and allows it to start extracting the round. If you've ever heard the term short stroking, this is usually where it can happen. You can generally get around this with an adjustable gas block, or you might just need to clean your gas port out to allow more gas into the bolt carrier group. During the extracting phase of the cycle, the bolt carrier group continues to move to the rear with the extractor claw, withdrawing the spent cartridge case from the chamber of the barrel. This allows it to properly eject from the rifle during the ejection portion of the cycle. The ejector is located on the bolt face, believe it or not. It's impressed into the bolt body by the base of the cartridge case, and the rearward movement of the bolt carrier group allows the nose of the cartridge case to clear the front of the ejection port. The cartridge case is then thrown out by the action of the ejector and the spring. This is another point in the cycle of operations that can cause shooters a lot of drama, so make sure you're watching your ejection pattern on new builds. If you treat your barrel like the 12 o'clock position, the 230 to 430 zone is the sweet spot. If you're ejecting outside of that, you might have some gas issues with your rifle that you need to look into. Issues here can also be caused by your ammunition. I know for a fact that there are some AR-15s out there that just will not cycle steel cased ammo. So if you're having issues with your extractor and your ejector, it might be because the case is swelling and your system is struggling to get the round out of the chamber. Be cognizant of that when you're choosing your ammunition. Following ejection, we enter the cocking portion of the cycle. This is when the bolt continues its rearward travel and the bolt overrides the trigger's hammer and forces it down into the receiver, compressing the hammer and spring, which causes it to disconnect or to engage the lower hammer hook. And from here, we enter directly back into the feeding portion of the cycle of operations, resetting everything and getting us back to square one. With the cocking portion of the cycle, it's all about your trigger and your buffer. If you're having issues with your trigger resetting, start with your buffer and then move on to inspecting your trigger. When you say it all out loud in one string or one sentence, it sounds like this: feeding, chambering, locking, firing, unlocking, extracting, ejecting, cocking. Guys, the easiest way to remember this is with the mnemonic phrase, fat cats love fighting and less eating extra catnip. Now, I know some of you guys might have another way to remember it, but I'm not gonna say the other variation here on YouTube, but I bet it'll be down in the comments section. Bottom line, guys, if you're suddenly having issues with your rifle not working as intended, your first step is to always take everything apart and clean off the firearm entirely. With direct impingement weapon systems specifically, the weapon kind of poops where it eats. Modern rifles generally don't have a problem with this because manufacturing has come a long way since the 1960s when this design first came out, but you'd be surprised how many people have fixed their broken rifle with a bottle of CLP, an AP brush, and some rags. If that doesn't do the ticket for you, your next step is to get out to the range with a fresh magazine and some high quality ammunition to start troubleshooting what your weapon's doing wrong. Find out exactly what part of the cycle of operations the rifle is failing at and inspect the parts responsible for that portion of the cycle. You might need a new gas block, you might need to just realign the system, but you also might need a new bolt carrier group entirely, or you might need to replace a worn part that's causing your rifle to fail. Whatever you find out, now you know how the cycle of operations works in a nutshell, and that's going to make you a more competent shooter. If you want to dive deeper into handling malfunctions, check